Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kyle, and welcome to the very first episode of the Parallel Panels podcast. Though I do explain what the podcast is right at the start, there's a few things that maybe I wanted to sort of clarify, just a few bullet points before you take in the very first episode. Just a few things really to do with the podcast that we didn't speak about. First of all, this is our very first recorded episode. There was no trial run, so we're still kind of working out the best way to set all this up. I've already got a bunch of ideas. One of the things that I am really going to change is the audio quality. We've already got plans in place for the second episode, so hopefully that will change nice and fast. What I wanted to tell you when, essentially, is the podcast. Well, we're aiming to do it once every 2 weeks on a Friday. So one episode a fortnight, releasing on Fridays. That's kind of just to give me time to read the comic and make notes, and I want to try and do that as close to recording as possible so it's fresh in my mind. I mean, if the podcast starts doing well and things like that, I'm happy to, we can jump to one a week, but that's how it'll be for the time being, just to give me, time to do other things apart from read comics, Where can you get the podcast? Well, first of all, you're listening to it, so well done for figuring that one out already. But we're aiming to just do Spotify and YouTube for now. Again, if people are asking for something else, then we'll definitely get on that as well. Those two were the kind of two that we just instantly thought of as getting it out there. In terms of YouTube, it will just be audio for the time being, but again, as we get further down the line and things like that, maybe we can look into doing video or even just graphics that come up. So if we're talking about a certain comic panel or something like, or character, you'll get images on screen. So if you wanted a reference point visually, then maybe we can accommodate that also. As I mentioned in the podcast, we are incredibly open to suggestions. I don't want this to just be comics that I like, I want to learn more about comics through doing this as well. So if you have a suggestion, please let us know on social media. You can find us at Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube, all under Parallel Panels. Of course, Spotify as well, but I don't know what you're going to send us on there. The final thing I should say that I didn't mention in the episode is where you can get the comic that we are doing in this episode. Of course, if you've seen the episode title, you will know we are doing The Killing Joke, which actually isn't available on the DC Infinite app. So I don't know if you can get it on Comixology. You might be able to get it through there. I mean, the panels in The Killing Joke and the artwork is so iconic that you can probably just Google search the majority of the stuff that we talk about, and I'm sure it will be up there. And a lot of it you'll probably know, even if you don't know. But that's about it. So without further ado, please enjoy the very first episode of the Parallel Panels podcast on The Killing Joke.
Nice.
So, I'm not going to ruin the episode in case someone's listening and they haven't seen the episode, but episode 5 of Kenobi had a lot of Revenge of the Sith stuff in it. I can't... This sentence is going to make me sound like an absolute insane person. I can't think of Revenge of the Sith anything without... I keep thinking about how funny the sentence is in my head. Without hearing the music of Anastasia.
What? What does that even mean?
Anastasia, the pop singer.
Yeah.
That had a couple big singles, and then I don't know what she's doing now. I have no idea. I don't know how she's relevant to anyone apart from me in this story. So, when episode 3 came out, my mum had a boyfriend at the time who turned out to be a twat, but whatever. He was really nice to me at the time, and I, as a kid, I thought he was really cool because he was he lived at his mum's house. And he was I don't know, 30, mid-30s. And all he did was, he worked, but I can't remember where. But he stayed in his pajamas and played Medal of Honor. And I was as a kid, I was that's so cool. Which, now, not so cool.
No.
I'd rather not do that, but, But he was really into Star Wars. So he went to see episode 3 on his own. The day it came out. So that he could see if it would be, all right for me to watch as a kid. And then he was yeah, cool. So then we went the next day. And so, we just used to watch Star Wars, and we played the Revenge of the Sith game with the co-op. That co-op was so good, and the versus mode, which was pretty bad.
Oh, definitely.
The versus mode was ass, but it was so fun.
Could be worse.
But I used to play that loads anyway. The only two things I remember about him is that he was really into Star Wars, and that he was really into the music of Anastasia. And that's how that links back around. So whenever I think of Revenge of the Sith, I think about Anastasia.
So the two things you remember from your mum's ex is Anastasia and Star Wars.
And that he
was a dick.
Twat. Yeah. I think he liked wrestling as well. At least he used to own an Undertaker t-shirt. I don't know if he actually liked wrestling, but we never like bonded over wrestling, so I don't know.
But you bonded over Anastasia.
No, over Star Wars. I was never into Anastasia. I mean, she's alright, but like, who really cares? There you go, that's the story.
That's a dumb story. That's really, really dumb.
I was thinking about it earlier. I've got another story, but I'm going to save it.
I haven't even thought about Anastasia for years.
I don't know if anyone has.
That's true. Probably not even Anastasia.
No, I think you're right. So, I should explain the podcast idea off the back of that story. Otherwise, everyone's like, well, Anastasia podcast, I guess? You don't know a lot about comics, but you know movies and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So like,
the Marvel stuff.
It means you've got like a base knowledge, but like never read proper comics. So like, it means that I can try and explain them, but like, I'm not gonna take it super serious and be like, you have to like this. Like, comics are dumb. Sort of, I'm just gonna treat it like. I mean, obviously I love it, but I'm not treating it super serious. And it's going to be dumb. That's like the whole premise is like, you don't know a lot about comics. I'll try and explain them. I mean, the more episodes we do, the more dumb they're going to get, because like, we're going to have to go past ones that I know really well and get to stuff that even I don't understand, and I've got to try and explain it to you, which I'm not good at explaining stuff. So
all I'm saying is, if you can get it in a comic book sense, the Rock guy from Thor Ragnarok, that's dumb as is. So if it gets dumber than that, please.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. We need to do a Thor episode, actually. We'll do God of Thunder, that the new one is like kind of based on. But I'm a bit worried that they're going to copy it pretty closely. And so, like, I'll end up spoiling the movie for you. So I'm like, maybe we wait until after, just in case. I don't know. Like we were gonna do The Boys, but you're gonna watch The Boys soon.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't want to take like, there's some like big reveals early on that like catch you off guard, and then like I'll ruin the like start of The Boys for you. So I don't know. We'll just work it out as it goes, and then like, I need to get like suggestions from other people, because otherwise we're just going to end up doing stuff that I like, which is just going to be like Batman comics and dumb spooky comics, and then like that's literally it. Like, I've been forcing myself to read like a bunch of stuff that I would never read. Like, I've read quite a lot of Superman lately. I've read a lot of Spider-Man, which I don't really read. So, otherwise,
can't stand Superman still.
I've got the first Superman story we're going to do. I'm not going to tell you what it is or whatever, but I think you'll like it. Because it's really dumb.
Just get beat by kryptonite again.
There's no kryptonite in the story.
No kryptonite.
And should I say that? Yeah, I'll say it, because like, people will probably know what I'm on about already just by saying it's dumb. It doesn't take place in continuity. It's an Elseworld story. So, like Marvel What If? It's like that.
Okay.
It's like a complete, like, people will know exactly what it is from that, because it's like maybe the most famous version of that, but with Superman, and it's like dumb.
Superman 3. Everyone loves Superman 3. Come on, why are you even laughing? Everyone loves it.
So I've literally already told you that we're doing Killing Joke.
Yeah.
Because it's probably the most... is it the most famous comic book story ever? I mean, apart from like origin stories, but it's kind of an origin story.
The way I put this is, I've definitely heard of this, and
yeah.
when it came out, it was even to the point where I'd heard it.
Yeah,
and I don't read comic books at all.
And it's really simple. Like, you don't need to know anything about like what's been happening in continuity. Whereas, like, I mean, what's the second episode? Second episode doesn't really work. But that, like, we're going to do a Batman comic in a few episodes, and like, I have to start by explaining this is what happened in the book previous. Whereas this is like completely unrelated. I mean, it has Joker on the front cover, so it's about Joker. But it's probably like, it's the definitive Joker story. Like, done. Like, they still use it today in continuity of DC. Like, no one's ever touched it, really. And it's like super important. Like, it's a really dark story, which this came out in late 80s, I think. Which, that's kind of like the era where comic books got really dark with like some of the Batman stuff and stuff like that. And then the 90s kind of like embraced that. And it's written by Alan Moore, who is probably like next to Stan Lee in terms of like comics history. Like, he's my favorite writer. He's also an insane person now. he's from Northampton. I've told you about him before because when he was 40 years old, he legally classified himself as a wizard.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, that guy.
Brilliant.
He wrote like Watchmen, V for Vendetta, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
So he's skits, but
he was a genius, and then like, you know, as like a lot of geniuses do, kind of, you know, went a bit crazy. He had like, there's another writer, there's a Scottish writer called Grant Morrison who will do further down the line because his comics are nuts. Like, his ideas are just absolutely insane. But he also is a practicing magician.
Oh, wow,
not
okay.
magician like bunny out of a hat, like real.
Like
I'm putting this in air quotes, like real world.
Penn and Teller kind of thing.
No, like manifestation and like rituals and stuff like that.
Necromancy and stuff.
No, I don't know if it goes that deep. I think it's more just like, I don't know.
That's messed up. Anyway, you were saying about
him and Grant Morrison used to have like wizard beef, but yeah, we'll get into that at some point.
Right, yeah, let's get that wizard beef episode going, shall we?
We'll do that as a one-off. This were the first comics I ever bought because I was like, it's like so legendary. The art is by Brian Bolland, but this is like the anniversary edition, so it's like redone. There's a quote by Tim Burton on the front because why not? And it's introduced by Tim Sale, who actually like passed away like a week ago, who is like one of the best comic book like artists ever. Like, did some of the best stuff ever, and he died literally like, I think it was like Thursday last week or something.
Damn.
Which is weird. I honestly, until I picked that off the shelf today to reread it before this episode, I didn't realise it had that in it. So I read that and I was like, that's really weird that like that happens. So this comes out in 1988 and Alan Moore hates comics.
Okay.
If you talk to him about it now, he hates superheroes. Like, he hates the idea of them so much, even though he's like, you know, one of the best comic book writers of all time. But he had one comic book left on his deal for DC, and DC were like, we're not letting you go until you write one more story. And so most comics, right, like if I bought what's like another really famous comic, let's just take like Court of the Owls, the Batman story. It's like 8 issues collected into one is like the book, and they come out once a month or whatever. This is just one issue, so it's really short, which is why I picked it for the first episode, so we can chat nonsense beforehand and it not overrun. So Alan Moore, being like the crazy genius that he is like, fine, I'll do one more. I'm just going to write this throwaway Joker story that turns out to be like iconic, just so that I can leave DC. He's like, here you go, have this. And he doesn't like talking about it. He thinks it's like his worst piece of work ever, and that it like makes no sense or whatever. That's just like Alan Moore.
I mean,
like, he thinks it's really obvious, which when we get into the story, which essentially is him saying Joker doesn't have an origin, and yet he's one of the most popular characters, I'm going to give him one. His origin is pretty obvious, but like obviously this came out in like the 80s, so it's obvious to us now because like kind of everyone knows like Joker-ish.
and also because of the popularity of everything, we all know what's going on.
Exactly, so it's obvious now, but like, you know, whatever.
So this Alan Moore guy, you mentioned he only did DC. He obviously left DC.
Yeah.
Who else did he go to?
He did do some Marvel stuff, I think. I don't know if I've read any Alan Moore Marvel stuff. He kind of got his start at DC. So he did a comic called Miracle Man, which is really, really good. And then he went from that into Swamp Thing, which is my favourite comic ever. Like, it's so good. And then from there he did stuff with Vertigo, which is like edgy DC.
No, again.
But like, that's when he did like Watchmen, V for Vendetta, like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, all in like a row, and was just like, I'm the best ever. And then, you know, he took a little break, but you know. So it starts. You know, when was the last time you played Arkham Asylum?
I'm gonna blow your mind again. So you know I don't like Batman.
Mm-hmm.
You know I don't like him. Batman Begins is the most overrated thing of all kinds. I've never played an Arkham game. That's on my list again of things I need to revisit. But I've never played an Arkham game. But I know you can just spam a button.
Yeah. I mean, either way, it's not really that important. But it's just it starts in like really similar fashion where it's like it's raining and it's Batman and he's going to Arkham and he's going to meet the Joker, and his idea is he wants to meet the Joker because he's like, enough is enough. He basically says like, we're gonna do this forever until one of us kills each other, so I can't live with the fact that I've never tried to just say let me help instead of let's do this until one of us dies. I gotta be the good guy and be the better man and be like, come on, we can work this out. And then Joker's just like sat there, you can't see his face, he's just playing cards. And Batman gets annoyed at him and like swipes at his hand, and when he does, makeup comes off. And so he like grabs him and he's like, you're not the real Joker, because that wouldn't come off because it's not paint. Because like in comics, it's not paint, it's bleached, his skin.
Yikes.
Yeah. In movies, is it only...
Because
Jared Leto Joker had bleached skin.
Yeah.
But he's the only one, right? Everyone else is...
Heath Ledger didn't, because you could say...
It's face paint, and you see him without it, right? And Jack Nicholson as well, you see him without it, when he's got like crazy
Jack Nicholson, forgot about that. Yeah.
Cesar Romero definitely had it painted, because you can still see the mustache. Which is hilarious. So he realizes that... it's Joker. It's not Joker, rather. And then it cuts to Joker, who's at like an abandoned carnival. Okay. Because there's loads of those around Gotham, and it's like not like a modern day carnival. I know that this was written. I don't know when it's supposed to take place in terms of actual time, but it's like an old school carnival. As in, like the posters up around the place are like for people with dwarfism and the bearded lady and a man with 3 legs.
All the good ones.
All the classics, if you will. And he's like talking to the guy who owns the carnival, who wants to sell it because it's been shut down for years. And you get this little tour of the carnival, and whilst it goes around, there's like 2 stories that happen at the same time, right? So you get this story happening right now with Batman and Joker, and then you get Joker's origin that kind of like cuts it.
Okay.
So that's when you get the first Joker origin part. It's a Joker origin, but you know how like in the Joaquin Phoenix movie where Joker says something, but then you see a different thing, and so you're like, I don't know who's right here. It's kind of like that. I mean, I think Joker at one point even says, I prefer, if I do have a choice, I prefer it to be multiple, or something like that. So it's like, it's basically like Alan Moore's way of saying, I'm going to write this, and if people don't like it, we can say it didn't really happen. But if they do like it, then Joker was telling the truth.
So it was 50-50 and he won, basically.
It's like, you don't really know. So yeah, you start to get the origin. And it's pretty well known at this point. They do copy some of the Killing Joke stuff in Joaquin Phoenix Joker, where he's a struggling comedian who has like a trash life. Like he works a terrible job. I think he got fired from his job. Oh no, he left it to be a comedian, but the comedy job is going terrible. Yeah, he's got a pregnant wife, and they live in like a terrible neighborhood, and it's just like he's like.
So it's the whole was a clown, wants to be a comedian, goes to be a comedian, fails.
It's sort of. He used to work at a chemical building,
oh,
and then he quits to try and be a comedian. And then because he's not making money being a comedian, because he's a terrible comedian, he's then like, I'm a loser because I can't support my family. This is all my fault. So like he's like, comics do that a lot, where they're like, you know, like the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, where they're like, Spider-Man's sad, and to prove it, we're gonna show a montage of him being sad. It's like that. You know?
And when he's happy, he dances around.
And he's singing like, why is it always rain on me and stuff, you know, and they just like go over the top. But you know. So he's at a bar drinking, and there's these 2 criminals. I don't know if they're friends or whatever, but there's these 2 criminals, and they convince him, used to work at Ace Chemicals, right? So we want to rob the place next door, which I think is like a playing card company. I don't know if that's meant to just be like a Joker tie-in. I don't really know. But, so they're like, used to work there, so you can get us in, and that would be great. And he's like, well, I really need the money, so okay. But they're like, when you do it, you have to wear this costume. And the costume is a villain that came out. He was like one of Batman's first villains, I think, from like the 40s in the comics, called the Red Hood, who like you've probably seen the costume for, because it's literally like a tuxedo with a red cape and like a red dome on his head. It looks terrible.
Like Magneto, but red.
Yeah, and like there's no face. It's just a dome. but not like a Mysterio dome, like
Juggernaut dome?
no, like more like a torpedo-shaped dome.
Oh wow! Looks like a
It's like
pencil.
tall. It looks like a glass cabinet that you would display something in, but it's red.
Okay.
And so back in the day, in like old Batman comics, there was this villain called the Red Hood, and Alan Moore uses that, brings him back, but he's not real. He's like a thing that criminals made up, and so that the police think there's this villain called the Red Hood. So if they want to try and do a crime, one of them dresses up as the Red Hood, and then suddenly the police are like, oh my god, the Red Hood's here. But in reality, no one is the Red Hood. It's just like a thing that criminals use to get away with stuff.
It's like a Jane Doe thing.
Yeah, sort of. And Batman's pretty new to being Batman at the time, so the police are like, we don't know how to deal with Red Hood. Like, he's a like criminal mastermind, and we're just standard police. Like, we don't know how to deal with it. So they're like, you have to wear this because if the police come, you'll scare them off and you won't give away your identity. And he's like, I can't really see out of this thing. And they're like, don't worry, it'll be fine. You know the way, you've worked there. So, you know, whatever. Then it's like running simultaneously with present day. So it goes back to present day, and Commissioner Gordon and Barbara Gordon. You know Barbara Gordon's Batgirl?
Oh, I do now, but she's the one in the wheelchair, right? In the Arkham games.
It's funny you should say that.
Right.
They're just chatting in their apartment. Whenever Joker is out of Arkham, he always goes after the Gordons. He just hates them. And like Commissioner Gordon is kind of like a lot easier to get at than Batman, and like he's like a symbol of hope.
A little bit like Colonel Sanders. No, no one's ever mentioned it, but he's just like a young Colonel Sanders.
I never really thought of that, but yeah, I guess so.
There you go. There's my knowledge into the Gordons. One's disabled, one looks like Colonel Sanders.
I don't know whether in Killing Joke she has been Batgirl or not. I don't think so. They don't really say. But there's a knock at the door, and Barbara Gordon goes to answer it. And when she opens it, this is a really famous comic panel. It's Joker in like a Hawaiian tourist costume. He's got like a bright flower shirt and a hat. And he shoots Barbara Gordon when she opens the door. And it paralyzes her. And that is why she is in a wheelchair in the future. Because she can no longer move. Which at the time, like this is like the 80s. Like there was a long period where comics had to go through like a code where you couldn't show certain things. So a woman getting shot and paralyzed in a comic was like pretty unheard of, like that sort of violence. Like it's pretty crazy. Yeah, she goes on to become Oracle, who's like she looks over everything, kind of like what Morgan Freeman does in the Dark Knight movies.
I thought you were going to say Evan Almighty. I don't know why. I'm sorry.
Wait, is it Evan Almighty or Bruce Almighty? Or is he in both?
Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's Evan Almighty, right? That's the one with Steve Carell. Bruce Almighty is the one with
Jim Carrey, right?
Yeah.
There you go. I guess so. Joker's like goons. By the way, you know I told you that the carnival has like it's an old carnival, so it's like three-legged man and bearded woman with two heads, all this weird stuff. He like employs them. I don't know if they're still there at the abandoned carnival. I don't know how he finds them, but you know, the Joker employs weird people. So they beat up Commissioner Gordon and like capture him. And Joker then, which is still like a really crazy thing to see when you actually see it in the comic, he undresses Barbara Gordon and takes photos of her, which like Joker has never done anything that messed up at this point in the comics, I don't think, unless there's like maybe, but even still. So they go back to the carnival, and Gordon's held captive by like Joker's freak people. I don't know. Again, I don't know why they're still there. Joker's sat on a throne of like baby dolls, like literally that panel there.
Oh God!
Yeah,
that's really messed up.
Oh, he killed the guy who owned the carnival as well.
Oh, and he put him on a nice little pink elephant.
Yeah,
that's absolutely wonderful. Though.
Yeah, he's like the little greeting thing that you come into.
Oh, and they did employ the scary dwarfs.
And they strip Commissioner Gordon when they get to the carnival.
Okay, alright. So, yeah, Joker's a little bit gone. Right.
So, Joker puts him on a ghost train that goes through like a fun house, but it's all like real messed up stuff. Like the freaks are riding the carnival show with him. And as you'll get into in the comic, as he's going through, there's the photos of Barbara Gordon like played on. I don't know if they're like played on screens or if they're just photos like that he's made really big. all the same time Joker is singing to him through like the speakers because why not. And someone delivers tickets to the carnival to Batman because he's trying to find out where Joker is, and eventually the police get these little like carnival tickets through. And so he's going to go to the carnival and stop Batman. And this is kind of like at the point where Joker's plan kind of comes into place, where his essential idea is all it took for him to become insane and become the Joker from the person he was is one bad day. So he's trying to put Commissioner Gordon through the worst day of his life to try and prove that Joker isn't insane. It's just like this could happen to anyone. So he's taken like the person he knows is like the most morally, like I guess like he's Commissioner Gordon's like the moral high ground, right? Because he's never been corrupted or swayed. He
always does the right thing.
He doesn't beat people up, stuff like that, like unless they need to be or whatever. So that's his idea, right? And Joker thinks it works, and he puts Gordon in a cage. And then we get more flashbacks. Well, the flashbacks kind of happen like in between that, right? Where Joker's still at this bar with the criminals, where they've just told him that he's gonna have to be the Red Hood. And the police show up at the bar when he's talking to the criminals, and they say, "Are you whatever his name is?" And they say, "Can you step outside?" And they tell him that his wife died, like that morning. The reason they give is that she was trying like a new experimental baby bottle heater, and it blew up.
That's pretty severe.
That's also like really specific.
Baby heater bottle.
They literally tell him when he's outside the bar, like there was like a 1% chance of that happening. Like that's gonna make him feel any better? I don't know. And then they're just like, "You've got time because we can't save her. So maybe go in and have another drink, and then we'll take you to see her or whatever." So he goes back in, and the criminals are like, "Man, that sucks." But then they're also like, "Well, at least you can bury her in style after this job tonight." And he's like, no, you don't understand. I can't do it. I don't have a family anymore. Like, my wife and kid are dead. There's no point in me doing it. And they're like, too late. So.
Okay, alright. Bad day getting worse. Here we go.
Exactly. So they go to the chemical plant. Joker immediately fucks the plan up and takes them the wrong way. And there's a security guard who shoots both of the criminals dead. Again, just to drive home the point that Joker is really messing this up. And Joker like panics instantly because he can't see very well. He doesn't know what he's doing, and he instantly runs into Batman, who, like I said, is kind of like new, like at this point to the people of Gotham and stuff. And Joker gets scared when he's trying to run away, and he jumps and he falls into the acid, which is like, why he gets bleached. Yeah. And then you see him crawl out, and he takes off the mask, and it's like bleached into his skin. And he just immediately starts laughing. Like, that's the point where he's gone insane, like instantly. That panel
this panel here is probably the most iconic thing about I've ever seen in DC, which is, just so everybody knows what I'm looking at here. It's where he's obviously laughing now. He's out the acid tank, and he's got his head in his hands in his hair, and he's just laughing. It's the ha-has behind him, and it's just beautifully illustrated.
It's so good. Like,
I don't think you can get better than that. Like, I've seen that on posters, I've seen that on shirts, I've seen it on everything. Like,
yeah, it's crazy. So then we cut back to the fun fair, and there's like a standard Batman and Joker fight. Joker's somewhere in the fun house, and he's basically like saying that the world itself is what's crazy. Like, everything we live in is a joke. So compared to the daily routine of the world, Joker isn't insane. He's just adapting to the world around him, sort of thing. And he makes a point of saying, like, he doesn't understand why Batman, who is also insane, doesn't find it funny. And Batman, like, generic Batman moment, he like breaks through the mirror and he tells him that it's because he doesn't find it funny because he's heard it before and it wasn't funny the first time. Like, just like that final Batman line to be like, cool. I got you. Yeah. So Batman tries to have that conversation with the Joker that he tried to have in Arkham about how, like, this needs to end, because Joker's like, well, this time I shot a woman and paralyzed her and like did some pretty messed up stuff, so you must really hate me now. And he has the conversation about he's like, maybe this time I've crossed the line too far. like, surely in your eyes, like, what else can I do? And Batman, is trying to convince him that, like, they don't need to kill each other. And Joker just, like, looks at him and says, like, I'm sorry, but it's too late for that. Like, I can't go back, kind of thing. And then he says that this whole thing reminds him of a joke. I think Alan Moore is, like, earlier in the comic, when I was saying he's a failed comedian, he comes home from work, from like a gig, and his wife or girlfriend is like, how did it go? And he's like, I messed up the punchline again, I can't get it right, or whatever. So I think this is the joke that he tries to tell at the comedy club or whatever. But the joke basically it's not a very good joke. But the joke is, there's two guys in a loony asylum, and they decide they don't want to be there anymore. So they decide they're going to escape. They go to the rooftop. There's a big gap between them and the next rooftop. So the first guy jumps and makes it, and the second guy is too scared. So the first guy says, don't worry, I'll shine my flashlight and you can walk across the beam to the other side. And the other guy says, what, do you think I'm crazy? You turn it off when I get halfway across. Which is like... It's not a very good joke. But, But it's more like... I don't think it's meant to be funny.
That was the end of the joke. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, you weren't joking about... There's no punchline to that one.
I don't think it's meant to be funny. I think it's more meant to be like a joke about Joker and Batman. How it's like they're both insane. Like, obviously, like the two prisoners on the thing are both like in the wrong. One of them saying he can like light the way and he can walk across a light beam, and the other one saying, nah, you tricked me and turn it off halfway through. Like... I think it's not meant to be funny. It's just meant to be like, we're both crazy, but we can't come to terms with the fact that we're in the same boat, kind of thing.
It's like going back to Gordon. He's morally right. Yeah, but Batman and Joker both are morally wrong in a sense. But obviously Joker's a little bit more morally wrong. So he'd leap and then he'd go, I'll help you out, buddy. And then, would you trust Joker?
No.
No?
And it's also like Joker's whole thing of him saying, I'm not crazy. Like, the world is crazy. I'm just a product of that. And I don't know why, despite the fact that you're also crazy, you don't find it funny. Like, you take it super serious. So, it's kind of like that as well, where it's like the differences between the two of them, which is a lot. There's a lot to get across in a joke that has a bad punchline. Then the ending of the Killing Joke, right? This bit at the end is like meaningless, but like if you go back to like the last few pages, it's a really controversial ending. It's this like group of panels here, like the very last page that ends on the raindrops. Joker starts laughing like uncontrollably at the joke because obviously he thinks it's like the funniest thing ever. And Batman kind of smirks and starts laughing. And then they both start giggling. And then this panel right in the middle has never really been answered. But it looks like they're both laughing together. However, people also pointed out that if you look at where Batman's arms are, it kind of looks like he's strangling him.
I don't know. I wouldn't say... it looks more like a punch, but then as soon as you say they're laughing together... It looks like he's reaching out and touching his shoulder. Because it doesn't look like it's on his throat.
Yeah. And the reason that that's become like a topic of conversation is because you can seriously make the argument that Batman finds the joke funny because it's like the turn, like after what he's did to Commissioner Gordon and that joke, and Joker saying, it's too late, I can't go back. It's like Batman's final trigger where he's like, after having that conversation where he's like, we're going to do this until one of us dies. This is my last attempt to be like, at least I tried to save you. This is like that. This day is the trigger for Batman instead of for Commissioner Gordon. In Batman being like, I can't save this guy. He's going to keep doing this until I kill him. And so that's where it's like, people think that maybe he dies at the end. And other people think they just laugh together and they kind of share for that one moment. They do see eye to eye, and they just both kind of find it funny. Like we're both absolutely insane, and yet we're on completely different sides. Like, we hate each other, even though we know nothing about each other.
Wasn't there a similar scene in one of the Batman films where Joker basically looks at Batman and goes, "Okay, I'm going to kill myself," and then he jumps, and Batman saves him.
Yeah, he saves.
Is that
Heath Ledger, I think, like falls or something, and he saves him, and then Batman says something about dropping him, and Joker's like, "You wouldn't drop me. I like without me, you like I'm fun." Like
it kind of echoes the same.
Yeah,
that same
like,
thing.
The modern day Batman movies take a ton from Killing Joke. Like Tim Burton's Batman, sort of like a little bit, but the others. The modern ones for sure take a ton out of Killing Joke for sure. Like but Alan Moore hates talking about the ending. Like he's never given anyone anything to suggest whichever way.
Obviously, he's focusing on his wizard stuff all in all. That's where you got to respect the grind of the guy.
I mean, he's trying to do spells out of it, man.
But yeah, it's an ending that you can't really say is definite, right? So obviously, in a way, I guarantee he doesn't want to tell anyone.
Probably.
Right? So there's some part of him which is like, yes, he's a wizard. He's going to learn Frostbolt and all that, Fireball. But does he want to literally say what he meant by this? Why? Why when just leave it to interpretation?
And like he makes a really clear point out of Joker being an unreliable narrator, which I don't know if it was a thing before Killing Joke, that like you can't trust anything Joker tells you because he changes his mind. Which like obviously, I mean, like one of the main like things that you think of when you think of Heath Ledger's Joker is the different stories about his scars. Like he tells a different one every time. It's like you don't know which one's real. But
classic line, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's like you don't know whether he's in on it and he's doing it to confuse you, or whether he just honestly thinks that and that he changes his mind because he believes that it's different versions. Like, I don't know if that was really a thing before Killing Joke. Like, the reason why Killing Joke is so perfect to start with is because you don't need to know anything before it, and after it informs, like, so much. Like, not just Joker and Batman, but comics in general, like how dark they become after Killing Joke. Like this is like an untouchable book, and to be honest, I'd never go back to it to read it because it's so short. I remember it pretty well, even though I love Alan Moore stuff. It is probably the thing of his that I own that I go back to the least. But for a like one issue story, it's pretty crazy like how much he covers in such a short time.
I wasn't aware of how short this actually was.
Yeah, it's like crazy.
Because the book in here, obviously, because it's an anniversary version, it includes quite a bit of other stuff which isn't to do with, well, it's to do with the Killing Joke, but it's nothing to do with the story. But wow, that's insanely short, and for that to be as iconic as it is, I'm surprised.
Right,
I'm definitely surprised,
especially when you consider what I said like right at the start about how Alan Moore had to write one more book for DC. So he was like, I'm going to write the shortest thing I can possibly write as part of this contract so that I can leave as soon as possible. Because he was just like, I've got all these ideas that aren't DC related that I want to go do. I've made my name with DC. Let me go do my own thing. So he just wanted to get out of his contract. Like he was like, I just need to phone in one more book. And then he's just like, here's this. Which is crazy.
You got to respect in a way as much as he did want to leave. And as much as you are putting it in a way where he's just like, basically fuck this. I'm leaving. I'm gone.
I mean, he puts meanings into like everything. So I'm sure he still spent a lot of time on it. I'm sure he wasn't just like, I'll write this in an afternoon, and I'm sure he still put a ton of time into it. But he wasn't, he didn't have this in his mind as like, I need to do this before I call it a day. It was just like, well, I've got to do one more DC thing. I might as well do this.
He didn't love it as much as Swamp Thing.
No.
What you're trying to say.
No, he does not. Well, honestly, we will get to Swamp Thing, and like everything I've told you about Alan Moore suddenly makes sense. Like he writes it as if it's like Shakespeare.
Oh God! Right.
And it's insane, and yet it's like it goes from like Shakespeare Gothic tragedy to like there's a evil monkey demon, and like oh man, they go to hell. Swamp Thing is incredible.
You have me at Swamp Thing Shakespeare. Monkey Demon, however. No.
Oh, dude,
you got me going to that one as well.
We'll probably end up doing a few Swamp Thing episodes because it like we can't do like the first book is incredible, but then like we got to do Something Goes to Hell and all that dumb stuff.
Something Goes to Hell.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's metal.
Anyway, you mentioned about the ending of this anniversary version of the Killing Joke.
Yeah.
What is this?
I honestly,
If you
when I scrolled through it earlier, I don't remember reading it. It's not by... I don't think it's by Alan Moore. I know that... Yeah, it's by Brian Bolland, because I know that this version is nothing to do with Alan Moore. Brian Bolland went back and recoloured everything for the anniversary, so that's why like the art looks super crisp, even though it's from the 80s. Like, so I don't know what... I can't remember what any of this is, to be honest.
we'll have to have a look into it, won't I?
It's like super short. Like Batman getting shot. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I can't remember. And then like literally the last page is just like sketches.
Yeah, because this guy literally he's imagining all this stuff.
I think it's Brian Bolland. I think is the guy.
Oh.
And he's telling you about, I don't know, either something something about working on this. I don't know.
Mad.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I can't remember reading it. I mean, I have read it. But I can't remember reading it. You know?
It's one of those where you pass it away.
Yeah. One thing I forgot to mention at the start. Did you remember the controversy around the Killing Joke animated movie?
That's where I first heard of this, I believe.
Yeah,
some
probably.
people hated it.
Yeah.
Like, literally,
sucked.
because we have a few friends who are obviously Batman fans. Most people are Batman fans, unfortunately. But when Killing Joke came out, obviously what was your feeling of it? I never got your feeling of it.
So they really hyped up. So you know how like for ages DC movies sucked, like every single one, pretty much. Like, I mean, I know that you're not the biggest fan of the Nolan trilogy, but everything apart from the Nolan trilogy was pretty bad for like a long time.
Batman Forever was good.
Okay, no, past that, because then obviously like the Tim Burton Batman movies are incredible, but after that, like I'm talking Superman Returns.
Oh no. Oh yeah, yeah. I know that.
And then like that stretch, like Green Lantern,
Saw that in cinema.
bombed. Like all of these movies, right? And Marvel were doing incredibly well, and it was like, what DC doing? They just suck. DC's animated movies compared to Marvel movies, Marvel animated movies is like the flip. Like DC animated movies are really, really good.
Isn't that just that's their animation in general? Because their animated series, especially the Batman one, is meant to be incredible.
Yeah, pretty much. Their animated stuff is really good. I know that obviously like Marvel have kind of like upped it now with the Disney Plus stuff. Like if What If is anything to go off, like the animation for that is so good. So I don't know. I'm sure they'll up it. But the DC animated movies are really good. And people were like, why haven't you done Killing Joke? And so they announced Killing Joke, and they were like, it's going to get a theatrical release. It's R-rated, and we're bringing back Kevin Conroy, who... is it Kevin Conroy? Have I made that up? Is that the Optimus Prime guy?
Optimus Prime.
I'm really bad at getting him and the Optimus Prime guy the wrong way around, which is mental because I absolutely love the voice of
Kevin
Batman.
Conroy was in Killing Joke.
Oh, it is Kevin Conroy. Who's the guy who voices Optimus Prime?
Optimus Prime.
Yeah, in like everything. Is it Peter something?
Let me just get this up. There's Peter Cullen.
Yeah, Peter Cullen. He's like, if you know, he's literally the voice of Optimus Prime. I think he does it in literally everything. Kevin Conroy is like the best Batman voice, and he's the voice of Batman in basically all the best animated stuff. And it started with the Batman animated series, and obviously the best animated Joker ever is Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
And obviously they were together for the animated series, so they brought them back for the Killing Joke, which was like Conroy and Mark Hamill back
Insane.
together. That'll be crazy. The problem is the Killing Joke doesn't really need to be R-rated if it's an animated thing. Like, it's pretty dark, but you know, there's not a lot of blood or whatever.
No, I'd say the only
Somebody
blood,
gets shot.
The only blood I've shown is just when Joker shoots Barbara.
Yeah, it's pretty dark, but whatever. They purposely like this is a whole bigger issue, but it's also really short, so they added a lot. They added a whole subplot. So you know how this is like, you've got Batman and Joker in modern day, Joker's origin. They added a whole other plot involving Barbara Gordon's Batgirl, where her and Batman are like in a relationship.
Why?
Then like not in a relationship, and then they meet on a rooftop and have sex. It's like super weird. So they can be like, hey, it's R-rated. So guess what? You know, it's like they put stuff in just to like beef it up.
So you get to see you naked twice. No, we're trying to say
one of them by choice. No, I can't remember. I can't remember the actual like what happens, but basically, I remember that was implied. But yeah, the Killing Joke animated movie is terrible. It's probably the worst DC animated movie I've seen, which sucks because it should have been the best. It should have been the best, but they add at least like 45 minutes of additional stuff that all sucks because it's all nothing to do with Killing Joke. It's like a side plot, which makes no sense.
Well, at that point, is it even Killing Joke?
So
I can see why people were so angry at that point. So
yeah,
that's not the Killing Joke that we read or we loved.
Yeah,
it's in fact.
And the other DC anime movies are like super faithful as well. So it was like really weird. I think they just did it to make it longer, which I get, but then like just don't make it then. Don't add another plot on. Like it's a really short comic, but it's like pretty flawless at what it does. But what do you think about the origin of the Joker? Because I feel like it's not as impactful now because it's quite a generic villain plot now, I guess, that he's like down on his luck and then, you know. But I love the idea that I think probably the best story anyone has ever written about Joker is him putting Commissioner Gordon basically through hell for a few hours to try and prove that he's not crazy. He just had one bad day, and so he's like, I'm gonna prove to you that. Like,
I think, does Commissioner Gordon end?
He's fine.
Yes, so
he's fine in the end, and he's like, when Batman finds him, he's like, go get Joker, and Batman's like, oh, I'm gonna get him, and Commissioner Gordon's like, don't hurt him, bring him in, because we need to prove that our way. So, oh, you look at the freak show people.
It's a funny freak show guy.
What is the map? Is that guy's freak show thing that he's just really skinny?
He looks
There's
like
a hairy.
There's a hairy guy who looks like Cousin It. There's just a creepy guy.
I don't know why they're still there. The carnival is abandoned.
But yeah, I'd argue, if I'm going to be honest, is it a good Joker, like a origin? Yeah, like it's really really well done. Does it prove his point? No. That's why he's the villain. Like, obviously, Commissioner Gordon's absolutely fine. It's now I've looked into this. I think I'm with everybody else where I'm like, what the hell is that final?
Yeah,
that final thing. Are they both laughing together? And I'm having to join the Alan Moore hate train. Stop your wizarding about and tell us what's going on.
Yeah, summon an answer.
How about that?
The only problem with doing the Killing Joke first is, like, every Joker story from here is like, I know that obviously like we're gonna do some like pretty big comics early on, so you know like the quality of the comics might decline, but you know that might make the episodes more fun, to be honest. But like, if Killing Joke is like the like in a Joker story tier list, if Killing Joke is like an S, man, we have got a lot of C's and D's.
Oh God,
I don't even know if there's an A.
Really? They're that bad?
Man, there is a lot of terrible Joker stories because he's like,
I mean, as we mentioned at the start, I'm the movies. I've watched the movies. I don't like the Batman movies. The origin of, well, they don't really tell you the origin of the Joker apart from the Joker.
Yeah.
So you don't really have much to go off. But the Joker film, I thought was a really good origin story as well. And I can, now looking at this, yeah, it did rip quite a lot. But
yeah,
it didn't have the VAT stuff, which I'm very...
Yeah,
because I've always thought with the Joker similar to, oh, what's his face with the electric eels, Electro. they basically have the same origin story where they're really sad, they're really bad, they're like, oh, they suck, and then boom, into a vat, acid, eels, take your pick, and then they're evil. But yeah, the Joker changed it for me. But here's the question I have for you, because obviously you're the comic book guy. Do you prefer the Killing Joke or the Joker film as an origin story? Obviously, two very different mediums.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about Joker. I mean, it's tough because of them being different mediums. Like, I think that it would be. They've only done this version of Joker's origin in terms of the falling into acid in Jared Leto and Tim Burton's Batman. And you can get away with it in those because they're like very comic booky. Whereas like Joaquin Phoenix is literally you're just watching a man go insane. So
I think they obviously do the Mark Hamill animated shows as well.
Yeah, in those it's kind of like a little bit of both, I guess.
I think
a little bit more Killing Joke, probably.
This is where I've always had my thing with DC, which is DC animation and comic books. From an overwhelming amount of people I know, they're better than Marvel. But
yeah,
when Marvel go big, and they do it insanely well. Whereas if DC go big,
oh, we've got a lot of things on both sides of that fence. We got a lot of Marvel books coming up that are like they try and do big things and
oh god,
it's not very good.
Hopefully, we do Suicide Squad soon as well.
I hate to tell you, Aaron, there's no good Suicide Squad stories.
Oh god, yeah.
I mean, we'll do one
at
some point, I guess. But I mean, there's like versus the Suicide Squad, like you know, like a character versus. They're pretty good, but in terms of like standalone Suicide Squad, there's like nothing for them to do.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
You know, like it just kind of is like that. To put it into perspective, the most recent Joker story that I think we will probably end up doing to show you where Joker is at now. There is a thing where like people changed the Killing Joke origin a little bit. So we're gonna do some books by Scott Snyder, who's kind of like the most recent guy to take Batman and change quite a lot. And he kind of changed Killing Joke a bit because they reset everything. So it was like it's really confusing.
Is he related to Zach?
No, he's actually not. Weirdly. He like takes Killing Joke and like changes it around a bunch, so it's a little bit more like Joaquin Phoenix Joker, but whatever. Recently, I say recently, quite a few years ago, but probably the biggest thing that happened to Joker recently, there was 3 Jokers, so like from different eras. So you have like Killing Joke Joker, like kind of like a Jared Leto-y Joker who's like modern and
everyone loves that one.
Yeah, everyone tick that box. And then like I don't know, I can't remember, but it was I remember hating it. But we'll do it at some point. But I'm just saying, there's not a lot of good Joker stories. This is kind of like that's why this is still like the definitive one. But what I'm gonna try and, like I said at the start, I'm gonna try and keep it varied. So I'll try and like we won't do back to back like Batman stories for episodes. Like we'll try and switch it up. So like if there is stuff that people want to see us do, then like I'll happily, as long as I have time to read it and to write notes and stuff, then all good. Obviously it's easier for me to do the ones I already know or own, but like that obviously is only limited to so much, and
we'll tread on untreaded ground at some point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've read some ones already that I've made notes for that I've not read before, so those ones will be fun. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We did the Killing Joke. I mean, I know that it's like the shortest comic that we'll probably ever do, and we've still gone like 50 minutes, but that's because we've been chatting like loads. Like it will be probably more story and less like other chatting, but like we'll just see how they go for every episode. Do I want to give you a tease for the next one? I'm also trying to alternate between DC and Marvel every episode.
Is Hulk next?
No.
Damn it.
I actually haven't prepared a Hulk one.
You haven't prepared Hulk?
No, we'll do that. But
the worst Marvel hero.
in
movies.
There's some really good Hulk stuff, to be fair. I'm going to tell you this much. The title of the comic that we'll do next time, it's a 3-word title. If you take the opposite of every word...
This is some Riddler shit, this. What the fuck is this?
It's young woman Jake. And I'm just going to leave it there. So we'll catch you on the next one. And that's it.